Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Brian Burke.
You know,
We just wrapped up the LEAD7 program this weekend. This was your first time helping out with coaching.
yeah,
And so we wanted to, we started we were reflecting on the program earlier today, and the conversation got a little heavy. And so we decided we should shut up and get the camera rolling and then share it with the guys. So that's what we're going to do for this video. Because there was a lot of really cool stuff. I've been running these programs for a long time. I did a lot of new stuff this weekend.
yeah,
My goal was to keep it maybe like 10% explaining stuff, and then like 90% we're doing exercises. You know, with the women, we had women participating, two beautiful girls that came out, and they were really sharp and fun.
yeah, great personalities, very
Awesome ladies. And then you know, a great group of guys. You know,
positive environment.
definitely like
Super
super fun, super positive the whole time. Everyone just like laughing, smiling, and then with moments of like you know, those aha moments, like, wow, you know, even for me as a coach, like running it, there were things that, you know, as I'm teaching, I would maybe explain things in a certain way, or you had a lot of great insights, and I was like, oh, you know, that's great, that can like improve the program. So I would take mental notes of that. I was constantly writing things down, like, okay, I'm gonna do that.
I had just in the first like 2 hour little, like the main lecture part, I had like 5 pages of just notes.
Excited to go through that.
It was my first time experiencing the whole boot camp deal, and you know, I was partially participating, partially, you know, trying to help coach and do that whole thing, and it was really, there's a lot of takeaways.
Yeah. So I felt like, you know, kind of the way I wanted to structure this video, we started talking, you know, I was basically asking you, like, you know, what were some of the highlights? What do you remember? What did you think could be maybe improved, or we should keep doing? Because, you know, you coach other things. You've coached self-defense, you've coached tennis, and like a lot of different things, and you kind of have a mind for this sort of stuff already. So we started talking, and so I decided, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the LEAD7 takeaways. Stuff that I remember was kind of like highlights or big moments, and then the same for you. And the way, earlier when we were talking, the way it started was we had 5 guys, right? 5 students, I think, total. And we had a guy who was older. I think he was like 52 or something like that. And then we had a guy who was like 20, 24 maybe.
23.
Right. And then a guy who's 29, and so the whole gamut of age groups.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Every group.
And one of the guys, one of the younger guys, he had an experience right after the program where we all went out. We were all hanging out afterwards, like, you know, unofficial. Just we had dinner, and then
it
was a Super Bowl. That's right.
Oh yeah, and then I went somewhere else, and you guys all went out to a bar, and so Riz, as we'll refer to him, I talked to him sort of next day, which was yesterday, and he was telling me about them going out, and he texted me, he's like, oh, I ended up leaving that, but I got this girl's number I was talking to, and so I asked him, sort of had him break it down, and he was at the bar with you guys, he saw a girl standing at the bar by herself, and so they had a bit of eye contact, and he was standing with you guys, I suppose, and he just walked off. So I told him, she's like, hey, how's it going? I saw you, you know, sparring. Just simple. Like, his big thing has been looking for the magic line. Like, what's the right thing? What do I have to say? What do I have to say? And then that nervousness and fear that builds up. And he just went and talked to her, and then talking 20, 30 minutes, and he actually decided he had to go for work, she had to work in the morning, and she was like, oh, well, let me give you my number. And, you know, that's one of those things we can talk, you know, at another time at the follow-up where, like, what it's set, like, because that's a much better precedent than, you know, trying to just like get a phone number out of it.
The offering time thing,
And he actually, one thing he did say, sorry, real quick, was which I thought was quite a big takeaway, is because that was his big sticking point. And he said that seeing Brian and I, well, mainly us two, talking about how we both get nervousness and some fear before we go and approach a girl. And, you know, alcohol can combat that at times, but the fact is there's always still something, and I have the same problem. What's the magic line? There's no magic line. So he said that him hearing that we have that same hit come up was big for him because he was like,
Feeling
oh, well,
your stomach.
yeah, he literally, I think it's like exact words, but, you know, if Brian and Ian are still, like, getting nervous, then it's just the same, you know, just, they're all human beings, it's like, there's no magic.
You know what's interesting, and I just thought of this, I didn't really plan on talking about this, but that Sunday night, before we parted ways, you went and did your own thing, and then me and Riz and a couple other guys went to this other bar. There was a woman that, as soon as we walked in to have dinner, there was a woman I noticed who was just really pretty face, big eyes, big lips, blonde girl, like really full lips, and was like sucking on a pink sucker, like really sensually, and it was just over the top, and she was just sitting there like, I don't know if there was anything behind it, but when I walked in and saw that, I was like, whoa, okay. So the whole time
she inceptionized it.
She inceptionized the hell out of it. So we're sitting there eating, and I just keep glancing over, and then finally I had an opportunity. There was some other guys sitting over there, and it was her and her friend. And the football game ended, the Super Bowl ended. They kind of got up, and everyone, you know, they were kind of like social and drunk, not drunk, but like.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is before you get. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so her friend introduced her as this other guy, and I could tell they didn't know each other, and she didn't like him that much, and just kind of waited. Her friend was close to me. I said, hey, what's your name? And talked to her. Then I said, what's your friend's name? And she said, blah blah blah. And so then I said, okay. And then she kind of floated back to these other people, and I said, hey, girl's name. And she turned around. She was like, how did you know my name? And I waved her over, and then she came over and said, how did you know my name? And what happened after that, it went well, you know, I got her number and everything, but what basically happened, what was happening right then for me, I didn't feel, I knew what I was doing, I didn't feel like scared or worried about anything. I actually was like, you know, feeling pretty confident, but my heart was going faster and pumping harder than it normally does. And for whatever reason, I took a note of that. At the time, I was like, I feel fine about this, but it's not even a fear thing. It's just the fact that I'm meeting a new person. Obviously, I think she's sexy. She turns me on. It's exciting. It can be, there's maybe a little bit of anxiety here, but the fact is, it's totally understandable when you see an attractive woman and you want to meet her, and this is like new territory. It's exciting. It's a new experience. So, you know, having that heartbeat, you know, a little bit of nervousness, all that stuff is totally fine. I always have that. If I don't, it means I'm probably drunk.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, and I think maybe that's something that you and I do that, or the way that we view it, and it's like we, you know, focalities and mindset that a lot of people don't have is when I go out, I'm just having fun. Like, I'm enjoying I like meeting new people. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I'm meeting a girl, like, that's me connecting with a person. Like, that's enjoyable. So it's like, you get those photos of, like, having a good, like, it's fun. That's what my friend said. It's like, you know, dude, it's like, I'm watching out and you're just smiling. Like, it's like you're happy to be talking to that person. It's because I am. I'm going out, and I view it as like, a fun experience. It's not like some guys go out and it's like a job. I need to go, I'm gonna go get laid. I want to go meet chicks, and it's like that mindset is so goal oriented.
Well, I know a guy that, you know, even that night he was kind of not wanting to go to this other bar because he was saying, you know, I'm kind of tired. I don't feel like I'm on point. I don't feel like I'm going to be sharp for to meet girls. And I said, fuck that. Don't worry about being on point. You don't have to. This is not a. We're not playing like a soccer game, or there's no goal here. We're just enjoying ourselves. I mean, if you do want to leave, that's fine. But what was cool about that was it seemed to take a lot of pressure off him, and then he ended up actually taking the girl home.
Was this when I was here?
Mm-hmm. No, you weren't there. You went your own way. This was Jay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he said that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And I could tell he was kind of like, I could see that he was getting back in that mindset of, and he is very similar. Not the exact same sticking point as Riz, but kind of the same thing of feeling like it's a performance that you have to do it right. And, getting back to kind of where we were starting with this eye contact that I wanted to talk about was, him and that girl, I saw her, by the way, the girl that Riz met. she's beautiful, beautiful, dark-haired girl. If they made eye contact,
Yeah.
okay. A lot of times, a guy will say, and I've heard this, okay, if a girl makes eye contact with me, then what do I do? Or it's like, oh, that girl's like, I think that girl's looking at me, and then they get nervous, like, what should I do? But for me, like, if a girl makes eye contact, like, that's an invitation, like, that's huge. It's like, it's done. Like,
and your friends, like my friends, know it's like if that happens mid conversation, I'm going.
Right.
Like, sorry, mate. Boom. And that's we're getting. We got factions up there, and that's what that's about.
Yeah. But one thing I just wanted to say real quick about that is the fact that there was eye contact already, and then he just went, and whatever he said, hey, I noticed you, whatever, which was something we drilled, like having that simple, direct.
That habit. He already had the habit in just from practice.
From the practice, that's what was so cool about it. Is like we move, we end on Sunday. He moves into like going out at night. Sunday, boom, it just happens. It's automatic.
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of the whole point. That's why it's all exercises. I just want this to be habit.
He went with somebody the night before as well on Saturday night.
That's right, he did.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. I could have with her friend. But I had my students, so I wasn't gonna like just leave, but I could have, and so my point is the kind of the conclusion there is that little thing we were practicing over and over of getting that beat of eye contact first, whether it's you guys she looks at you from across the bar and it's that kind of thing, or as you're approaching, if you're a woman and you're looking that way, and just do that for a second, like look away, and then I maybe do that, and then lock eyes, and then I talk.
Yeah.
What I say doesn't really have to be anything special. This beat of eye contact makes a huge difference.
And just how you say it. It's the tone and
the appreciation, vocality. Yeah. Another thing you mentioned was that sort of simple touch when you're telling a story. It's expression, right? We're putting it, taking that vocality and putting it in the body. A big part of that is the reason why I had guys do that, how to like kind of make the vocalities physical, is because when you're using your physiology, it helps you internalize a new thought process.
Yeah. There's the mind-body link of just associating that physical touch with whatever's going on that you're training in the head.
And the thought process is, the vocalities, they're subtle. It's not, I had to make up a word to explain what they are, because it's not really your thoughts, but it's not just pure consciousness. It's in between. It's focus, right? So, it can be hard to understand. So when I get a guy to actually physically do it with his hands, for example, it helps him learn it. And one of the guys I remember was having some difficulty with it. He was doing he was tentative. He was doing like using his fingertips and couldn't really.
Oh yeah, we kept switching with fingertips and then hand, and a lot of time it was like the guy would be like, he's like
too hard, right?
Or if he did like a it was like get over here.
Right. So yeah, getting that together.
The exact pressure down is quite it's important, because that sets the tone for the rest of the interaction. And like we're talking about, like the touch during conversations, much I think simpler to a degree once it I guess gets habituated. But I was talking more like we were talking about as like the approach. The second night we were out, told one girl walked by, and she was actually just like sort of a walkway type thing. She walked by and she just did that, just right on her arm, just stopped her and then started talking to her. And
it's very powerful. I mean, it seems it's a very simple thing. Simple touch is just the kind of like this part.
Yeah, it's not down this far, and it's not up on the hand. It's right on like a bloody thick part, like the meaty part of your finger.
Right. And if you do it down here, like towards the tips, it's timid, it's weak, and fingernails don't feel
cold.
good.
It's like a weird. It's the whole thing with that part is like it's non-threatening, yet at the same time it's not like friend zone non-threatening. It's like, and it's a really easy way to. Nobody's sort of like, oh, I want to get your attention. Going like that isn't like knocking back. Well, if you go like that one,
the the fact that it's soft and non-threatening, but at the same time it's a committed way of touching someone, implies it's a very confident thing to do. It looks confident from externally. You're not thinking anything about confidence at the moment. You're just expression, right? But if you think about a good friend you have, or maybe people you know, and maybe let's say you have like 2-3 people, let's say even like at the water cooler in a corporate environment or something like that, and they're talking, and you come up and you know, it's Bob, Julie, and Cindy over here, and you want to talk to Bob about the TPS reports, right? What you would do if he's like in conversations, you'd be like,
Bobby,
and then you would just wait, and he.
Yeah, and then we talked about that a bit, the eye contact, waiting for the eye contact before, but that's what initiates and gets. I can get the eye contact, and then it's talking, as opposed to like you're looking away, like, hey.
Right, exactly. And if she's not, if she can't see you, if her back is turned to you, like I said, you want to get eye contact first before you say anything. If she can't see you, this is a very important tool to have to be able to do it right.
Well, it's because it works in pretty much every situation. We did the street stuff.
Street approach.
It's right there. Like at night there was a couple. Like, so I said that girl who had the blue, like the ridiculously blue eyes. She was walking by, and it's the same thing. I think I've been doing it unconsciously, but now it's like I've realized something I do. But it works pretty much anywhere, and it's really. I mean, you can use it in so many different settings too. Whether it's a bar, club, or even somewhere more like a day type situation where it's not like there's not the precedent of a bar or club where you have people know kind of why people go there. You could be somewhere and just like it's just a very universal way to get somebody's attention. It
is, and obviously it's something that a lot of people probably do naturally in normal situations, but for a lot of men, if you're not used to approaching women that you don't know yet in some sort of context like work or whatever, getting that first touch right is can be tricky, and we saw that. I mean, we saw guys having a bit of.
It took a while. It took a while even to get to really get it right, because there's part of it. If you're not comfortable, then you may do like the over. Suppose you do this, like even when we did that one drill, and I walked in and I was like this far away. I'd hover hands.
Yeah, hover hands. Yeah.
Yeah, and hover hands, obviously terrible. But and then there's the other way around. Where you're like, oops, and you're slapping a girl.
Right.
So getting that, that's partially just. If you're in the right vocality and your head's right, you're going to probably get the timing and distance right. But, the best thing is just practice. Like, that's what we did at the
just practice
it and it becomes very natural.
Well,
I'm sure Riz did that when he approached that girl without even, maybe he realized it or not, but I'm sure that was something that happened.
I know that, if a girl's engaged with other people and you want to talk to her and she can't see you, there's no way to, like, get in front of her or whatever. Something that I do a lot, I'll kind of demonstrate this a little bit, and it doesn't even matter if you're sitting or whatever, but, if you come up and you put your hand on her back, kind of like waiting for her to talk to you, that or look at you, a lot of women would be uncomfortable with that, being touched there by someone. First of all, you're in disembodied hand, you don't know, but if you're, like you're looking that way, go ahead and look, I come up and I do this.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
It's comfortable, but at the same time, I'm saying, I expect you to look at me. So there's a lot of different things.
The low back, obviously that can work right away, but it's much better to the arm is safe and consistent. The low back is great a few minutes in.
Yeah.
Especially, ladder environment, can't hear, pull in, talk in the ear, and then, eventually find somewhere quieter. But
it depends on the woman, and that's why, again, it's safer, more consistent. Some women, I put my hand on their back first before they've even seen me, and it's because I want their attention, and I don't mean anything by it, but they'll jolt, and that's not a good way to start.
Yeah, it's just the first impression is like, whoa, what are you doing?
That doesn't necessarily ruin it, but if you can fix that.
It's a simple, so why bother?
Right.
Why bother if you know that it doesn't work as well?
That was another kind of theme in basically everything I teach, but the program is, I have a ton of specific templates, techniques that are, designed to kind of get, optimal results, different scenarios. What's the word when you're sort of, I can't think of the word, but basically you're making contingency, like contingency-based techniques, right? Like, what if this happens? I have a ton of that stuff in the sexual supremacy program, But that's stuff, that's more like an encyclopedia. You can go back to that and use it. But that's only going to make sense if you understand the internal process, the focality stuff. So the whole program is, everything I taught was the simplest, most effective leverage points. Like that one thing can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Locking eyes first makes a huge difference, but they're very simple, easy things to do as well.
Right. Well, you talk about the GPS, which is like, instead of having like, you get these guys with routines and like these, like, it's like a playbook. Right. It's like you don't know what the other team is going to do.
It's
so
linear,
you can't,
it's chronological.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't have a linear path that breaks all. It's like, it's ridiculous because you can't think about all that while you're out. Then you've lost sight of actually connecting with the goal and all that stuff. Whereas you're talking about a GPS, which is that contingency you're talking about, where, all right, you go and you say this. What if it actually doesn't pan out like you think it does? And this
what if she mishears you? What if you trip just before you say it? And
But then if you're in the right focality too, you're going to be able to recover. And,
right.
And it's not about like, oh fuck, and then you're like trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? Do I have to make up? You just.
I just kind of thought of something. If the way a lot of guys I think about interacting with women. What, Black, you think? The way that guys think about interacting with women is sort of, it's like this. All right, so we do, we approach right here. We want to be, we try to be attractive, confident, sexy, right? Who knows what that means? There's a lot of, like we said in the sexual spark stuff, a lot of images and ideas, but that they're not necessarily true for that particular woman. So you're basically guessing from the jump, trying to be attractive, right? And then you want to,
what's the typical
report, attraction report. There's basically a million sort of seduction methods out there. They're all basically watered down mystery method, or kind of mystery method modified, where it's like attract, comfort, and then seduce. Seduce or
demonstrate, isn't it?
Logistics, isolate. Yeah, it's just all these. A million different. I've seen a million different kind of, not a million, but like a bunch of systems that are basically phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, sex. The problem with that is that's not how an actual interaction goes.
No, it's not. It's not linear. Like you said, they don't fall into boxes either. Every interaction is going to be
a real social interaction. Looks like this. It's a fucking it's crazy flowchart. It's a flowchart, and it's insanely complicated. I'm not even going to draw the boxes. I'm just going to do this. Okay, and then it could go to this. And it's, imagine this times like a million, like way more complicated than this, but essentially, that's here, and it's here, and you could potentially, I think maybe some point in the future there will be some artificial intelligence that can simulate like how a natural interaction would go. The bottom line is you can't plan for all this stuff. What you can do is have, if you think about, let's say we're going to go hiking, right? And if you're going hiking, or you're going in a situation where you kind of have a map to terrain, but there's going to be things that happen that you can't. You want to be prepared for all this stuff that could happen. Let's say, think about like a Swiss Army knife, right? You have the tools that consistently you need. You need the, I don't know, what is it? The screwdriver, the can opener, the knife, the toothpick, whatever. So that you have like
that toothpick.
Huh?
Gotta have that toothpick. You don't have bad teeth out there.
Yeah. So you have like 5 things that, okay, if I go out in the wilderness, if I'm camping, if I have these 5 things, I'll be all right no matter what. And it's the same thing with the social interaction. If you have the focality system, you're going to be all right no matter what.
Yeah. And it's not. I think I've even seen something drawn out where somebody had these like boxes.
Yeah.
Like going down, and I'm looking at it, I was like, who could possibly think about all this?
And how could you
have an interaction? You wouldn't have fun. And that's the big problem. How you having fun? It's like you're in a bloody classroom, except you're talking to a girl, and you're just like, but she's going to notice that too. You're going to be bored. Like, oh, wait, what she just said. All right, I've got to say that next. Shit, I didn't say that. Now you're all worried, and then it's like, so you can't. This like 3-step process of thinking that it works like that is just, it's broken.
Right, and that kind of brings up sort of these 2 concepts. It's actions, this word that you have, that's I think is really cool. It's very similar to focalities in terms of the concept, and then it's the zone of memories. We'll talk about that, but you know, basically, the place where fun happens is right now, in the moment, okay? And essentially your job with women is to have fun. So that means you have to be in the moment. But at the same time, you know, as a man, you kind of have you have an agenda, you have a goal. You know, you're turned on by her. You'd like to have sex with her. If you know, if things go, you know, maybe you just want to get laid. Maybe you're hoping you're the kind of guy that wants to make a connection. That's more my style. But either way, you know, you can't avoid the fact that you have that sexual desire. So you're moving in a direction. There's a direction that you want to move towards with this woman. So in a sense, there's sort of this kind of this idea of the future, but at the same time, you don't want to get stuck there. And you don't want to get stuck, you know, saying something and then regretting it and saying, oh, I messed that up. I got to fix it now, whatever. What does she think of me? All this stuff. So you want to stay in the moment, but at the same time, you want to stay on track. And so that's basically the focality system. But I'm actually interested in this actions idea that you were talking about.
So, yeah, I mean, the concept is essentially that for everybody, you've got your thoughts and then you have your actions. And generally, you have a lag period between your thoughts turning into actions. This is where you get laziness, where you get in all of life, you generally have this. But some people say, like a monk or somebody who's been through enlightenment, their thoughts instantly become actions, so I call them factions, because there's no gap, because they are who they are, they're completely in that moment, and in that moment they can only do what they themselves, their best self, can do. So there doesn't have to be a lag period. So the best example of this is where you have the pretty girl across the bar who you make eye contact with, and then you look at your buddy and you're like, or you just think internally like, I should go talk to her. And then you're having this dialogue, and it's been, say, 3 seconds, like, oh shit, I know I need to talk to her. Fuck. Fear. And then you talk to your buddy, and then he tries to psych you up, or you psych him up, and then it's gone, and the girl's looked off, or whatever. And then maybe you do go up, and maybe she's already turned around, she's in a big group already, or whatever. But there's that lag period that creates, you know, then the fear is only going to build. It's like if you're going to go up on a tall rock, jump into like a lake or something. If you stand up there for 10 seconds, it's just going to build, and every few minutes you're just like, there's no chance of doing it. You got to go up 1, 2, 3, boom. But when you see a girl who makes eye contact, you just have to build that habit and that belief. Just go, I'm going. And that's what he talked about with Riz, is his thoughts. Yeah. His thought, I need to talk to her, instantly became an action where he just decided to go do it. And right. So you have to lessen the gap, the lag period, which comes from, if you're in the right vocality, that's going to happen too.
Right. But it's interesting because I was thinking, you know, as you're describing this, I said, well, I actually told a story earlier in this video, the blonde girl that I saw, and you know, there was lag time because I'm sitting there, and her and her friend are kind of talking to these other people, and obviously, you know, she's sitting on this opposite side of the table. The Super Bowl's going. I could have approached her, but probably wouldn't have been the right time. It wouldn't have been optimal, and I've just learned through experience when that right time is. And so I'm sitting there kind of paying attention, waiting. So I'm not hesitating out of fear, I'm waiting for the right time, but then when that right time comes,
the action happened. But in a sense, your thought did instantly materialize into an action. You had at least an action.
It was almost like the non-action. The non-action right. was
your action at the time, because right. You realized this isn't the right time. But your thought didn't just stay a thought, like, I know I should go talk to her. It turned immediately into an action plan. You're not immediately going to act, necessarily. It's like you said, you don't just run across the table and just go and bother her in front of, you know, her friends if that's not the right time. But if you had the eye contact, then it'll probably continue as well. But even without the eye contact, if you decide, I really need to talk to that girl, and it's not the exact right time, like that happened to me when I was in Vegas. I walked by, I saw this incredible girl. I was like, you know, my perfect 10. So I said to my buddy, because we were walking to find somebody else, like, I'm not going to not talk to her. Right then, I had to go do something. It wasn't the right time. The next time I walked around, I saw her, I went. But that's an action plan. It doesn't mean your inaction was an action in itself.
Right.
As confusing as that may sound.
So I was thinking, like, I'm going to talk to her in, you know, when she moves over here, or when she comes over here, when her and her friend kind of, there's a lull in their conversation. So having that thought, and then your action is really to not do anything just yet. But then when the time comes, again, that thought is, oh, now's the right time, and you act. And
it's easy for you to sit here and theorize and say, like, you know, make your thoughts actions. It's obviously nowhere near that easy to do.
Right.
But one of the ways to do it and to build that is with the focality system. And authenticity is really what it comes down to. That's what we talk about all the
Focality is
time.
basically just training out deception.
Right, and that means you're acting, which focality it's in, you're acting authentically. When you're fully authentic, you don't have to think anymore about what it is that you're doing. You're creating, naturally lessening that lag period between thought and action, because when you're being authentic, there's nothing to regret.
Right.
There's nothing to worry about in the future or the past, because you're just being who you are, and there can't be anything wrong with being who you are, your best self. So you naturally create a smaller gap because you're not thinking, is this the right thing to do? If you're asking yourself that question, about guys saying that all the time, right? Like, I want to impress her. So am I saying the right thing? Did I say the right thing? What's the next thing I should do? When you're always in the past and future, there's always going to be a lag period.
Well, where do we get this idea of right? Like, let's say hypothetically, so if I'm thinking this, like, what's the right thing to say to her? Where would that information be? Where would I be getting it from?
Well, that's from
Movies,
that's from the false linear system
conditioning.
of thinking that there's a step-by-step way to
right.
say and do the right things. There's not, it's just a way to be.
Yeah.
Which is going to have techniques and tactics that come from that position of being in a focality or whatever, but the backwards thinking is tactics, techniques first, strategy, principles second. Its principles and strategies dictate the techniques and tactics. Tactics and techniques, by definition, only work against or in certain situations. That's why it's a technique or a tactic. A strategy is universal.
Right.
A principle is universal.
For like elicit reward, that's a strategy.
Right.
That's team building. That's a team building strategy, elicit and reward. So, and that's the pattern that you use with the woman to escalate it, basically.
It's, as a quick analogy, it's the same, I compare violence to dating regularly, which seems completely backwards. Not together, do not.
Well, it's an interesting topic because it when we're talking about the, sort of extreme situations, which we have all those kind of conversations, and it's cool because it's in those extreme situations that humanity is revealed.
Yeah, completely. And it's it's funny because with self-defense stuff, I went the same way most people go when they go looking for dating advices. I went I went techniques, tactics, like cool moves, fancy shit like that. Like I started doing kung fu, and it's like, all right, and I bought in, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And then I actually learned how it works and how violence works. And these techniques are too complex, there's too much thought, it completely overrides it all. So you have to, it's the same exact thing. Strategy and principle dictate the technique. Mm-hmm. If you try and use a technique that, say, to move yourself past a kick or to block something, it's going to fail if they don't do what you expect them to do.
Right.
So that's why you have a GPS, like you talk about, as opposed to a linear, path.
Right.
Would you rather have somebody hand draw you a map, where you're like, oh fuck, I went off, I don't know where to go now, or have a GPS?
Right, exactly. So that's kind of the structure of the sexual supremacy program, that they're the order of it, book 1, book 2, book 3. And I call them books, but it's audio and video.
They build upon each other.
There's a reason why I go there, because the understanding that internal process. The other thing I wanted to mention, though, was, we're talking about being in the moment. Does that mean you just say whatever you want? Does that mean you just say whatever pops in your head like you have Tourette's? And no, because number one, there's unconscious. Our brains are wired for this. We have like a brain that's been evolving for eons to interact and connect with each other. So there's already a sort of a framework for social intelligence and for social interaction that's already there. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, am I just going to go up to girls and say random things that pop out of my mouth if I'm in the moment? Actually, sometimes, but you have to understand, you might not be consciously aware, but there is that basic social awareness. Now, if you feel like you're socially kind of awkward, you miss things, you miss cues, you don't feel like you're on the same page as everybody else, which can happen with a lot of guys who are very analytical, guys who maybe have spent a lot of time studying, focusing on their career, dealing with, on the computer, doing things like that, and not interacting with people. That's why awareness is the second pillar, is one of the pillars of the ACT system. Developing awareness of women, awareness of people in general, and so that was another thing that we were drilling was okay. I had the guy do mechanically what's good, right? What's going to consistently work. Getting him, and then making sure he's in the right focality, but then maybe he's like when we were approaching the two women at the table, right? So the guy is in the right focality. He mechanically does, mechanics. He does the right mechanics, right? He does the right technique,
like physically, and that.
Like the touch and locking eyes.
Yeah.
But he forgets the friend right here, and so he's focused on one woman and ignoring her friend. Well, social awareness, if you had social awareness, you wouldn't do that. You would introduce yourself to the friend and then talk to this person, because, ignoring her obviously is going to be disrespectful. So pointing that kind of stuff out and saying, building that social awareness and saying, oh, you might, pointing out, that girl feels disrespected now. Oh, I didn't even realize that. And as a guy, and I'm thinking of this particular student that was here, he's not a mean person. He's not a disrespectful.
Great guy.
So when you point out, oh, that was disrespectful, he says, oh, I don't want to do that. So the next time around, he goes up and does it perfectly, because he realizes now, we build his social awareness, he realizes that what he was doing was disrespectful, and that's not who he really is. So he's still in the moment, but he has awareness too. So he's focused right in the moment, and it's balanced with awareness.
Right, and that's part of the live training, is drilling out the bad habits. But the other thing that it gives you, like you talked about that situation where we had the girls sitting at the table and he's approaching and practicing different stuff. First off, you're never going to get repetitions like that. Like 10, 15, it's like playing a sport, 10, 15 repetitions in a row of something and just a drill. You're not going to go out and be like, boom, 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 like, not realistically.
Right, with people who know what they're talking about, like analyzing,
like coaching you and there to pick up on subtleties and stuff. But the thing about it too is it's a higher pressure situation actually.
Yeah.
Doing it where you've got you, me watching, the other guys watching. There's the girls are there, and he knows it's a totally non-judgmental environment. That's what's powerful about it too. Is everybody's there to grow and learn and help, and nobody's at this level where there's nowhere to go.
Right.
The best athletes in the world still have coaches and still are growing.
Right.
But it's a high pressure situation. You're performing. Like there's a few people around you, and so
you can't run away.
Right. You can't just leave. And
if you make a mistake, you can't just run away. You have to stand there.
There's no
hear
music.
Hear the feedback.
And you're going to get, they're going to help you out and tell you what you did wrong. So he goes up and he knows he's got to perform. No, it's not performing. That's the thing. Not performing for the girl, but
the performance in every interaction. I said this at the very start. I said doing it, when we talk about doing it right, what I'm going to be teaching you, the stuff that works. Think about it as a reductionist process, as you're getting rid of bad conditioning. So the performance is actually a non-performance. We're actually getting out of the habit of performing, and you're doing that with the person you're talking to as well, encouraging them or creating a culture between the two of you where they feel like they don't have to perform, they can be themselves, and that's that illicit.
Those are the best relationships you have with anybody, the best connections, the way you're just being completely yourself. You don't feel like, what's this person going to think if I say this or that? But that was something you had talked about at the beginning of the whole program, but especially at the end, you and I talked about it, was it's not the process of addition. You're not adding techniques, tactics, beliefs, things into yourself that aren't already there. You're subtracting the negative and recognizing what's already within you.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not the addition of confidence or this or that. It's the subtraction of the other stuff, which is actually much less scary. When you're coming to learn something, do you want to go learn a million techniques, like learn how to go do calculus and all this shit, or do you want to reduce stuff to make it? Would you rather do subtraction?
Right.
The other stuff's calculus. This is subtraction. Which one's easier?
I'm actually just making stuff way easier for you. Yeah. Basically, that's all I'm doing. And the irony is most dating advice, and then if you're into the seduction pickup artist stuff, is it's an addition. It's an additive process. And that's actually the exact opposite of what works, what's enjoyable for you, and ultimately what's going to make you a better man and get the kind of women you really want. Beautiful, awesome, cool, good people on the inside.
That want to see you again.
That want to see you again, right? So what the cool thing about the focality system is you're already doing them, but you're also doing this deception. And so when we think about the kind of the say the right thing, what do I say to impress her? What's the right move to make right now? That's an additive way of thinking. I need to get this extra word or line or move or technique, which, comes from all different places. Our whole culture is basically telling guys, you need more. And that comes from the fundamental illusion that you're not good enough. And that's what I would say almost all guys are struggling with. Maybe even all guys, period, are struggling with. And it's a struggle that you're never completely finished with, but unless maybe you're like a monk and you became enlightened, or,
But there's still no end goal. Even they know you don't achieve enlightenment.
There's no done. There's no I'm done, right?
There never is.
Yeah. So, but, the more you can move in that direction, the better your results will be with people, the better connections you'll have, the happier you'll be, and you'll just find that you have more, better quality people in your life as well.
It's easier when you're subtracting than it is to try and add and learn new things. One more self-defense analogy is that people, especially because movies, and it's the same when we talk about dating, movies give you these ideas of that's a sexy, James Bond is the sexy man, that's, what sexy woman, whatever. Like, that's what smooth is and all that shit. Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing as you watch things like, all this complex shit is what works when when you have to defend yourself. It's like any woman or any guy has had to close a car door with groceries in their hands or something. Mm-hmm. What do? Boom. Little hip check. That's how you do a hip throw. It's like it's already within you. You already know all of these things. It's just about recognizing them, subtracting the bullshit, and recognizing them. That's what, like you said, everybody does the vocalities.
Right.
It's just about subtracting the deception vocality.
The bad one, yeah. The other thing we were talking about is, this. You were saying, you wish you could remember what you say, like initially with women, because you forget, and that the reason why you forget a lot of times is because you're in the zone, you're in the moment and having fun, enjoying it. Now you're way more of an extrovert than I am. I'm more introverted. So a lot of times I'm kind of in here thinking, not because I'm shy or scared, but this is just what I'm paying attention to. And you see me, I'm always kind of like thinking. So, how do I get in the zone? Let's say I'm in a social situation. Well, the woman puts me there. I see a beautiful woman. I say, whoa. And I'm excited to meet her. I might be a little nervous too, but that's fun to play with a new woman. That's exciting, right? So, this idea of the zone, how do you get in there? Well, for me personally, I let the woman put me there. I just get excited for her.
Right. Well, you view it as an opportunity. Right. Like, I like meeting new people. And I like
opportunity rather than performance.
It's an opportunity, not this, like, negative thing that you're about to go try and, like, make something happen. Yeah. It's like, it's a great opportunity to go connect with a beautiful woman and have fun. And that's good.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say about because you said the word smooth earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool when, I did that demonstration with the two girls. And I personally didn't feel smooth, like I said. There was the camera, there was everyone watching, and I think I was kind of just in a serious mood because I knew we were sort of getting close to the end, and I wanted to get a lot of stuff out, and make sure I covered a lot of ground. And so I did a demonstration. And it was very simple. It was just, simple thing I said to her. It was pretty direct. Talked to the friend, started having a conversation.
It's like 30 seconds, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't even long.
Right. And personally, I didn't feel smooth. I felt kind of a little tense and nervous, but I was in the right vocality of, basically, appreciation. I don't need to go into what each one is, but, so then we're done, and one of the girls said, her first comment was it Don Juan or something like that?
Rico Suave.
She was like, Rico Suave. Yeah. She was like, Rico Suave. She was like, that was really smooth. That was exactly what I would want a guy to do if he approached me.
Those are exact words.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would want a guy to do.
Yeah.
You could see it on her face. She felt that.
Right. So,
it was simple.
It was simple, and I didn't feel smooth. And yet, from her perspective, it was just right. So that's an important thing to take away. But jumping back to the zone thing, this memory idea. This is why I like to mic up either myself or students, when we're going out at night. Yeah. Because, you can watch it and say, oh, that looks good. Like, what did he say? And a lot of times, the same way, I don't remember. A lot of times, it's very simple stuff.
It's not like what buzzing like. It's not like I was like hammered and don't remember the night or like don't remember specific parts. It's literally like I remember the entire interaction I had with this girl, except what the fuck did I say at the start? And it was funny because I was with the girl I was with last night, we're talking about it. Neither one of us can flip and remember. Neither one of us. And I said to her, I'll just say joke with her, and I'm like, we were just so lost with each other that we just were so deep in the experience and in the moment that we couldn't even create memories at that time. And we both laugh about that, and it's a good thing. But the funny thing is actually quite true, is when you're that into the moment and in that experience and deeply with the now. I don't not sound woo woo, but like when you're in that moment, you don't need to create memories because you're not attached to like, oh, this is a great moment, I need to go back and remember this later. Like, you're in the moment.
Well, there is only the moment. What's happening is your focus is right now.
Yeah.
As soon as you're thinking about something that's not actually happening, it's not right there, you're basically in the past, in the future, or you're somewhere else mentally. But you can only be here. I mean, it's not woo.
Yeah, of course it is. And it's funny actually now, in retrospect, is the three girls who I connected with most, and like the three most attractive ones, and just like really hit it off.
Chemistry.
The chemistry is just there. Like there's it's like fucking gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is, those are the ones I just can't remember the start, like what I did when I approached. I think it just comes from that being engulfed by who they are, partially what they look like, obviously, immediately. That's the first thing you're thinking. But then being so into that interaction with them because you're taken by their beauty or who they are that you don't quite remember what's happened. And those are the three that I just go like, fuck, what did I say at the start? And they're kind of the ones for me, I don't really mind, like, I'll go up and say whatever the next time happens, and maybe I won't remember it again. But to, like, go back and try and reverse engineer and say, this is something that I've done that works. Mm-hmm. Try and teach it.
Thinking about the premise of, what did I say? I mean, I know that can be helpful to a guy, but a lot of times the stuff that I'll say is either just the right kind of funny joke right then, or it's something very, very simple. I remember, a girl that I care about very deeply, had great chemistry with. I didn't remember the first thing I said to her, and she told me, and it was, "You are so fucking beautiful." And I just didn't remember. And the reason why, I mean, if you think about those words, that phrase, that's, if you think about how I must have felt when I said that. Yeah, I'm in the moment, just admiring.
It's like you black out for a second.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like if you fall in love, like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Not like I fall in love, like, oh, I want her to have my babies.
No, but for
I might say that just, because it's funny, but
wasps.
Wasps, oh yeah. But other things, I'm thinking of women that I've had a lot of chemistry with, and everything was great just from the jump. I didn't say anything at first. I just
go ahead.
Yeah, like remember one particular girl was walking past me, and I gently kind of pulled her elbow towards me and kind of spun her a little bit, and just tucked her under my arm and looked down at her, and within a couple seconds, like our faces were touching, and then I kind of had to pull it together and be like, oh, so who are you, what's your name, all that kind of stuff. But so what did I say? You know what I mean? Well, what I said was, I love you. I'm excited about you. I appreciate you. Yeah. So, getting hung up on the first words, I can understand wanting to kind of have something by default to say, which is why I kind of
That's fun, and that's a great thing to do. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I have my go-to.
Right.
Everybody, if I think, just go, hi, my name's Ian, what's your name?
Yeah, sometimes you can't do what I did where you kind of pull her over. I mean, sometimes you actually have to walk up and say something. So it's, usually you're getting, going to be a little...
I think you and I have two seems that we both have the same ways. There's two ways of approaching. There's either something that's situational, that we sort of make light of, like a joke or something like that, or a direct hi, either my name or you're gorgeous. Like I've done, you're like, wow, like I'm taken aback by how attractive you are.
Well, the
indirect thing, I mean, I know that's not something I've...
No, if it's... Because indirect really is direct, just hiding it.
It's deception.
Yeah, it's just, you're just hiding your sexuality, which is silly. And you're essentially saying, I don't want you to see my sexuality, which is saying, I'm bad in bed, my sexuality's bad, my penis smells.
I'm not
a small penis.
I'm not comfortable with who I am.
Yeah, I'm going to be bad in bed. Like this, you're saying a lot of negative stuff when you're trying to hide your sexuality. What was I going to say about? Oh, yeah, on Saturday, there was a group of 3 girls that all had like really curly hair, and one of them I liked, and so I went over and said, "Whoa, this is too much hair." I said, "You guys got to leave." And they got all mad. They were like, "What?" And I was like, "Too much hair." And they started laughing. Now, that's funny. I don't know if I could do that on the spot consistently, like something that good. But the thing was, that was a lot of hair, and I was just playing. And so, you could, if you see a group of girls that have a lot of curly hair, they all have like kind of the curly hair thing, then sure, use that. But I just wanted to play with this one particular woman, and so that was where the mindset went. It was actually, I would say actually appreciation potential going on right there, but anyways,
yeah,
that's too technical.
That's a bit deep, but yeah, I mean, there's so much, like I have a girl step on my foot as she's walking by, and I was like, God, that was so rude, I can't believe you stepped on my foot. She's like, what? I'm sorry, this one guy actually, this is bad because she actually didn't step on my foot, but I just started talking, and then I'm like, I can't believe you do this, like, this really hurts, like, what are you gonna do? My foot might be broken. Like, just joking. But that was it. That was the start of it. And it just goes, if you start the interaction with that, you've got the right tone and you're in the moment. It's not about getting caught up on that. What did I say?
Right. Fun.
Because there's no magic bullet.
Right. Your job is to have fun. I mean, if you want to say, guys, it's like, what do I do? What's the task at hand? Your job is to have fun. Fun happens right now. If you're not used to having fun and being social and you get nervous and awkward around beautiful women or people in general, vocalities just trains that deception focus right out of you.
It's probably a good exercise to do as a guy going out with a couple of mates that you enjoy, and just say, I'm just having fun tonight. Mm-hmm. Not with the expectation now that you're setting of like, oh, it's got to be a good night or I'm not going to enjoy myself. Just be like, the only goal is to just like make the most of it, have fun, not thinking about women. Not do this every time, because if you're working on yourself and getting better at dating women, then you want to practice it. But just to feel that difference, and you may be surprised that you end up going home with somebody that night anyway.
Well, it's almost like you don't think about women until you see that one that you really want to talk to.
Yeah.
But before that, enjoy the friends you're with.
Or let that be a byproduct of a good night, not the focus.
Exactly, yeah. And I would agree that I tend to struggle when I go out, thinking, I have to get laid tonight. Obviously, that's not a problem when you're dating multiple women and you have like a lot of women, or at least one woman that you're, regularly sleeping with. That's not going to be an issue. But
it helps get rid of the worst smell in the world of desperation.
Desperation, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap up with this gap thing. This was something for me that I felt was important. I want to incorporate more of it in future programs, but one thing that was really interesting...
Just before you say that, this was actually probably the coolest thing that I actually saw happen during the program, because it was like, it would create a change, like, and you have subtle on there, and then the one at the end on the street was quite... Like, I mean, I was watching you. You're there doing the drill.
The street
and
approach.
it was like...
He's talking about street approaches, bro.
And it's like watching somebody's personality just, boom, change based on comfort and authenticity. I just wanted to...
His personality hadn't changed, though. It was just he stopped doing the fake stuff.
Yeah, and it was amazing how fast that happened.
Yeah.
And how quickly you could...
Because it's already there. It's already there. That's subtraction, right. What Ian's talking about, so we got... I call it the gap. Basically, there was an exercise where we're given a compliment to somebody. A student gave a compliment to one of the women. It was extremely beautiful. I mean, even I was like, looking at her, I was kind of having a hard time like thinking straight, right? And she said it, and it was nice. She said thank you, whatever, and then he said a compliment to a guy, a different compliment. I think it might have actually been you, right?
It was to me.
Yeah, and something changed when he talked to you.
You picked it up like instantly, too.
Right. But the girl did too.
Yeah, she noticed.
She like looked right at me, and I said, "What happened?" And she looked at me, and she noticed it instantly.
What happened? His voice got deeper.
Little things, like a little
Relaxation.
quieter, deeper. You seem more relaxed. Now, a different shift, if it was a different person, his voice might have gotten louder. And so you can't say, well, you should always talk in a lower, deeper voice, because maybe if it was you, and you were dealing with the same struggle that he was, your personality, your voice might have gotten louder.
Yeah.
As you said it to the guy.
Yeah. And it was just the difference between her and him was comfort. Her and me was comfort, and you could just see it and hear it, feel it.
He changed.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of got into that and started uncovering like why and all that sort of stuff. Another cool one was we were doing the direct approaches, practicing direct approaches, and just going up and telling a woman, I think you're beautiful, I noticed you over here, I think you're pretty, just a basic compliment, right? But a couple of the guys were struggling with that, and so I asked him, what college did you go to? And he said, I won't say the college, I'll just make up one. He's in Clemson. Okay, so he went to Clemson. And so I said, okay. I sat down and I said, pretend I have a Clemson t-shirt on, and you see me over here, and you went to Clemson. So come over and say, hey man, did you go to Clemson? And blah, blah, blah. Came over and did it. Everything was fine. He was comfortable, he was relaxed, he was making conversation, right? Then I said, okay, now imagine she's got the Clemson t-shirt on. Comes over, everything's good, everything's fine. He talks to her, talks to me in equal, not equal amounts, but gives me enough respect so that I don't feel like left out. And then I said, okay, and that was good. And then I said, okay, now come up and tell her she's pretty, just like you noticed that she's from Clemson. Went fine, went great.
Yeah.
When your sexuality, your sexual desire, when you're as comfortable with your sexual desire as noticing someone that has the t-shirt of the college you went to and saying, hey, I went there too. When you're that comfortable expressing your sexuality, when you're saying, whoa, you're pretty. Just like, whoa, you went to Michigan State. When you're that comfortable, that's powerful.
And everybody else in the room could see that difference and that shift in him. It wasn't like only you can pick out this thing. It's like, it's clear.
Yeah. Everyone could feel it, and sort of my job is like, what did you change? Figure out how to change it, right?
And that one's cool, but the coolest one, and I don't know if you want me to explain it, I actually watched it, but was the street one.
Yeah. We were doing the street approach. The thing about a street approach is, which, I kind of have, I've been teaching a basic street approach. It's kind of like, if you're, I don't know, maybe like in self-defense or whatever, there's like one like go-to move. If maybe you get attacked behind, you have like one thing that's like consistently.
It's your flinch response.
Your flinch response, right? So, when you're approaching a woman like on a sidewalk, like walking, there is a way to do it, and I have to demonstrate it, but there is a way to do it that is, if you get it right, if you get the mechanics right, it optimizes your results. Like your conversion rate, if you want to call it that, is optimized. It's the best way to do it, and it consistently gets like it's damn near like 99%.
That's not something I'd ever done, but now having seen how you do it,
you're gonna go and try it. It's exciting, right?
It makes perfect sense.
I've met so many women using this simple system, but
and what, like I said to you out there, is what woman doesn't want to tell all of her friends how she met this guy because he stopped her on the street and had to say how beautiful she was. It's fucking romantic comedy. Right.
But and there's a lot of little things about it that are counterintuitive that you wouldn't you wouldn't normally guess would work, but that I've gone through a lot of embarrassment and messing up a lot to figure out, like, okay, when you do this part and do this part, that actually works way better, and then you kind of understanding like why, where's her mind at, and other kind of physical dynamics of movement and all that sort of stuff. But so we're doing the mechanics, we're drilling it, everything's good mechanically, but there's something he's making some mistakes, there's something not quite right.
He essentially, and like you said, he would have to demonstrate to understand the technique, but he pretty much would just like run around it and just like, well, you, the fake lady at this point, and like be like sprinting, like stop and say, whoa, are you gonna mug me or what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And then he'd go a little better, but he'd be this far away, be talking from this distance because he's uncomfortable and and he's just like, it's weird and he can't get the words right. And Brian just tells him, just say what you're actually feeling at this moment.
Right.
Don't say any of this stuff that I'm saying to like use. Just say what you're feeling. He goes, he's now this far. The comfort is completely and utterly different. He nails every part of it without thinking.
Right.
Because all he did is he got and he's like, I'm tired. The weekend, it's been a long week. Like, what was on his mind? Because it's easy. You don't think about that part. So, but it made everything right, and that's what you're able to do is eliminate that, like, the try hard part and find out what's holding him back. And then we had him switch back into saying the thing, and now it's all fixed.
Right. And that's the thing that you get out of live training is that, I call it the gap, but it's that difference between, being yourself and being inauthentic or using the deception focality. That difference is so subtle. Everyone can, well, especially women can sense it. Guys who are socially aware can sense it as well. But it's so subtle, and it's not something you can really read about in a book or read in words, or even it's even hard probably to watch on a video and see exactly what's going on. It's an internal experience. Yeah. And it's different for everybody. That gap is going to be different. Like I said, you might be louder when you feel comfortable. You might be quieter when you feel comfortable.
And it's not to say that you can't learn a good portion from the home study stuff.
You can. It's just going
to get to the next level. That's
the whole point.
This accelerates it. Like, I mean, it's not even comparable. But instead of months it's like 3 days of wow.
Yeah.
You come out a different. I mean, I notice a difference in the student that by Sunday night when we're at the bar talking.
Right.
There's a difference even in, and this is a good guy, but just like his belief, his possibility, like what he, so much of that. But like, there are the subtleties. That's what you can pick out in person. You have somebody who knows what they're doing, who can watch. Like, there are little things everybody does with their hands. I'm sure there's things I'm doing here in a video where it's like, what am I doing with my hands? Like, it's like.
But your buddies don't know what to tell you.
No, and they're not going out trying to think, oh, let me help my buddy figure out what he's doing with his hands. We were watching one guy and he was like fucking wired up. He had hover hands like crazy, which will make anybody uncomfortable. It's like somebody sitting on me is just gonna pop out the and then they can try and touch her. He'd be like this far away as if he could. And so
a lot of the stuff that you're doing that is hurting your results with women and with connecting with people in general, I guarantee it's stuff you're not aware of. That's why you're doing it. And so you're, like I said, you go out with your friends or whatever, they don't know what to do. They might think, oh, he's awkward or whatever. But more than anything, they're just worried about themselves, and they're not going to be able to say, hey man, I noticed blah, blah, blah. So to figure it out on your own, you either need a really good system, a good resource, like, sexual supremacy, for example, is the best one that's ever been created in the history of the universe.
Or second that motion.
Thank you. But to have that internal experience and get it handled really quickly, that's why the live coaching is offered, and why it's, like I said, that's why I start the whole program by saying I'm basically going to shoot you 10 years in the future.
Yeah, and it's true. If that is the phrase you were using, and I was going to say it before, I don't want to sound corny or steal your line, but yeah, I mean, that's what happens is you come in and you practice and you do something in person, and it's going to make a big difference, especially if you've already been, learning, your stuff and the material, and then you just want to take that leap and grow exponentially.
Yeah. That's
where it happens, and it's cool to watch. I mean, it's really fun.
So fun.
Honestly, like I was, so if anybody sees the videos, I mean, I can't stop cracking jokes. That's my problem. But like, I was laughing about as much as I ever do throughout the course of the day. I was a great time.
Yeah, you're laughing. You're laughing, and then you're having like, wow, like breakthrough moments, and the whole thing is just a blast. And I was definitely tired at the end of it, but I said to you, like, that was work.
I know. It doesn't feel like
when you're having fun, you're doing it right. That's my motto.
7 parts of learning, right?
Yeah, that's one of the 7 parts.
It's a lot easier to learn when you're having fun than it is if it's like...
Well, in the LEAD7, it stands for Leadership Emergence and Accelerated Development. So accelerated development, we're speeding it up. Leadership Emergence. A man at his best self is a leader.
Yeah.
And that's already in here, so it's emerging out. You're emerging. Your best self is emerging out the whole time because we're subtracting the things that holds that in, that holds that back. The extra censorship, the extra weight, the thinking that you need more actually holds that inner leader in. And then 7, fun is one of the 7. It stands for the 7 principles of accelerated learning, and fun is one of those principles that I use. So
yeah. So last thing I'll say is, there's so much that can be gained just by even the fact that you're watching this, because obviously if you can hear me talk right now, you're going to be watching this.
Right.
Is that alone is a step forward that most people aren't willing to take, is that step towards personal growth, specifically with your dating life. But what the live coaching is the next level.
Yeah.
I had an experience that most people don't know it even exists.
Right.
But even within say it's a dating boot camp going. What's
right.
that? But it's they exist now. It exists for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's something that when Brian's teaching, you can see the passion coming through, how much he cares, the amount of effort that goes into the students is, he's not there for himself. He's gonna have fun because he loves it, and I had a great time being there. But the students, there's so much focus on them.
Well, from my perspective, I love doing it. I kind of have a selfish reason for it too. I get to hang out with awesome people who are interested in becoming better men, and awesome women as well. Those women were also kind of like-minded. That's why I chose them. But I get to hang out with people who want to learn, are ambitious, and want to become better. They want the best in their lives, and they tend to just be very good, good, positive, authentic people in general, and then they just have this one part that they're struggling with, and that to be able to help with that is, it's an honor really for me. So
plus we get to go out. It's not just, that's one thing. I don't know if it's not just this classroom.
Oh yeah,
experience. We're out each night, having
a great time. Yeah, we got a table the first night, and the second night was went to a country bar, which was a blast. I didn't get on the bull or anything, but
I wanted to. That was a big bird was on there. Jesus, she's bigger than the bull. Surprised it didn't break. That's it. Looked like a knockers were going to pop out and fly into the crowd like a couple of balloons. Jesus,
I missed that.
Massive. Yeah. Off topic. So when we do these conversations and stuff, there's a ton of golden nuggets and shit that we're talking about, but it's not systemized. We're not. This isn't developed as learning how to do it, built on these foundations and different stuff like that. It's a lot of good information that you can take and try and put together and stuff like that. But the programs that Brian's developed, that's where the systems come into place. It's been carefully thought out how a man can learn this best, step by step. Not step by step, go, how to learn it all and become that type of man.
Well, I've been doing this for 8 years, and it's cool to meet the guys and be around positive people, and the kind of work we do is really exciting and creative. But my interest, I'm definitely kind of a nerd. I'm kind of a geek. I like to create systems. I think it's cool to just create these systems that people can use. And it's really just it's this way to take, what's in here and transfer it to you. And that's how we speed all this up, so that you don't have to embarrass yourself for years like I did trying to learn this stuff.
Happens.
It was fun. It was worth it. Cool. All right. That's all I got. So, thanks, and more to come. So, see you soon.